Michael, great to have you with us. So welcome to our three-part series on fans, not customers. And I'm looking forward to exploring the customer experience angle of this conversation. I think firstly, let's think about how can businesses create memorable and meaningful customer experiences that just go beyond transaction and build emotional connections. But before I do that, it would be great to know a bit more about you and your journey, specifically on the axis of building the Explorer Journey brand from scratch.
It's my most favorite subject, of course, hospitality. This is what I do. This is what I grew up in. I was born and raised in Austria, so right away you suck up hospitality with your mother milk. It's in your DNA. Tourism is. I grew up in a small family-owned hospitality business, and then moved on to work for luxury hotels in the U.S. For some large multinational listed companies, for some large privately owned companies. We did some of our own investments. I worked in the U.S., in Germany, in China, in Singapore, now in Switzerland, in luxury hotels, but also cruise.
So I'm going to pick on an interesting conversation. You are a man who built a very interesting brand. Like, I don't think there's anyone more qualified than you to really discuss this customer experience. You built from scratch a multi-billion-dollar arm of a cruise company, right? Explorer Journey. Talk me through that. From having a blank sheet of paper to what it is today.
It was literally a blank sheet of paper. It was one of those once in a lifetime opportunities that come along. When the owners called me and said they would like to enter into the luxury business, a family that owns and operates the largest maritime business in the world, we designed everything from scratch. And this was just before the pandemic. It's quite unheard of, and it hasn't been done in the last 30 years, and that's what we did. At the core of it, of course, is culture, because it's a people business, right? It's all about people, and culture is what drives it. You gotta select the right people. You gotta ideally hire them because of their, the character, the type of person they are, because you can skills you can train, right? The piece of genuine connection and genuine hospitality. This is what you need to have the right people for in the first place.
Yeah.
We devised this big organizing idea, which we call the ocean state of mind, right? Because after all, what we built was a luxury hospitality brand on water. And the uniqueness of it is, of course, the ocean, right? And the ocean, through its calming and soothing, but also very energizing power, can be very, very transformational. And so the entire culture, the entire brand, the entire product was built around this what we call a big organizing idea.
Interesting. Ocean state of mind. You've mentioned culture 3 times now, right? And I love that. I love the fact that you anchored on that. You have the right people with the right mindset to propagate the right culture that you want to represent, right? And you talked about the difference between service and hospitality, which I love, right? One is what you do. The other one is how you make people feel.
Yes.
We're talking about fans, not customers, right? What's a big misconception about customer loyalty, and why do brands get it wrong?
So fans aren't created through transactions, right? Fans are created when you have this sort of genuine connection and this uniqueness, which again goes back to the human interaction, right? So you got to have the employees who really understand that, who live that, who breathe that, and it's actually it's not that complicated. It goes back to and to me, when I first encountered that was early on when I used to work for the Ritz-Carlton hotel company, and there's 3 steps of service. warm welcome. You anticipate the guest needs, and you serve, and then a warm farewell, right? And in between, you try and use the name recognition, very important. I mean, there's nothing sweeter than hearing your own name, right? When you're recognized, and those are still the same elements. You know, the golden rule. It goes back to very simple principles that you, of course, have to remember and live and breathe and subscribe to. When something goes wrong, you're empowered enough to rectify, and that gives you another opportunity then, of course, to make out of a uncomfortable situation or a complaint. You're able to gain a customer, or ideally then a loyalist or a fan for life. And I believe this is what many brands get wrong, because it's not just this transaction, right? It goes far beyond that. It's again, how do I feel, right? When I buy something, when I interact, does that align with my values? That's something that I would fully subscribe to. It's not about, points or perks or, again, transactional loyalty. Luxury customer is more interested in like genuine experiences and culture.
You talked about principles. What principles do you think businesses can adopt, right, to help guide creating the right customer experience, the right fandom type engagement, right? Because a lot of what you're mentioning, which I fully resonate with, is that softer side of things, right? Which is not always easy to measure, which is not always easy to design, and sometimes, it's quite challenging to implement. Right? When you think about your journey, building Explorer brand, what were the core principles that you put in place to help guide that? And trying to reshape them and trying to change the culture becomes challenging. I don't need to mention to you the classic statement that culture eats strategy for lunch, right? So breakfast or dinner.
Right.
The point is, what are the principles that you had the privilege to kind of implement to help guide the outcomes that you got to? So
you gotta be able to really understand your customer, guests as we call them, because part of the culture also needs to be your own language or jargon in order to make sure that every employee understands and understands the difference. So we used to speak about guests and not passengers, or not even customers, guests, right? Or hosts instead of crew, or suites instead of cabins or staterooms. Down to the name of the company was Explorer Journeys and not Cruises, because I always said I'm not in the business of selling cruises. I take a discerning next-gen luxury customer on a journey, right? And it starts with the first interaction until they are happy and they go back home and they tell everybody about it and they come again, right? So this understanding needs to be clear, that it goes far beyond features, going back again to the notion of not just providing service. Service got to be flawless, right? Features got to be there. Service got to be flawless. And the question really is understanding your customer. What are they really looking for? What are the benefits? How does it align with the essence of the brand, with the ethos of the brand? What are kind of their values? Because what they're interested in is not what do I get for my money, but how will I feel afterwards? What can I take away or back home with me? What sort of memory that no one else can provide? Because memories you cannot copy, Features you can compete on.
It's all about how they feel at the end of that experience, right? Creating that value journey.
And everything else serves that, right? Your standards, your procedures, your handbook, technology even. I'm a firm believer in high tech, absolutely. Love high tech. But high tech is there to serve and enable high touch. It's as simple as that.
I want to segue into how much of customer experience is dictated by emotional intelligence as opposed to, company policies and technology.
It's a people business. So it starts with the hiring process. It starts how you set your culture. It starts how you, as a leader, walk the talk. How you empower your employees to really go above and beyond. So technology as a base, standards as a base, repetitions, that service is absolutely flawless, that the guest never has to worry, that things just happen. They don't think, oh wow, what a luxurious experience. It just is, right? It just happens.
Do businesses spend too much time trying to fix customer pain points and not enough time empowering the employees to create better experiences? And what's your experience there?
Probably to a certain extent, yes. Horst Schulze used to say, you can only satisfy 98% of the customers, right? So it starts obviously with positioning yourself, communicating properly, segmenting, finding the guest that who really aligns with your brand's ethos and brand's essence. And then you have a winner. And then you have them for life.
Maybe let's finish off on this last question is, building anything from scratch, as you say, will come with its challenges, right? What was your biggest challenge and what was your biggest learning from that?
The biggest challenge really was having to do it in the beginning, the first couple of years, completely virtually because of the pandemic. I had a handful of people and then we had to shut everything down, right? You couldn't meet anymore in person. In hospitality, which is all about human interaction. It's about people getting together. And I started searching for people online. I started recruiting, interviewing, onboarding. I onboarded every single person from employee number one. Well, number one was me, from employee number two to 2,000 something myself.
Wow.
Via Teams. One of the first key hires, the chief sales officer, I met in person 1.5 years in. First time in person, 1.5 years in.
And that's your front line.
Yeah. So that, of course, was a challenge. Was, again, once in a lifetime opportunity squared that I don't think will ever, hopefully will never happen again.
What did you learn from that? Because you obviously did it successfully, right? So even with those challenges,
you just carry on, right? I mean, the cruise industry within hospitality was the only segment that came to a complete stop, right? It was completely halted, completely stopped. So obviously we had no visibility of how this will go on. Will it ever come back to normal? Will we ever be able to operate again? So you just carry on, small steps at a time. It's the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Right. Michael, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Peter, pleasure has been all mine. Thank you so much.